So you may remember in my last video, I built this Sherman Jumbo, and I think it turned out really well, but I promised that I'd be building a diorama for it. So I went to the hobby store, I got this foam base, I got some Woodland Scenics birch trees, and I got some Woodland Scenics field grass. And the idea for this diorama was I was going to have a little grass field with a abandoned German trench over on the side. You can see on a little hill over there. And then I was going to have a little wall kinda dividing that grassy area over there and the long field grass area with the tank in it. And this is the tank just in the middle of the tall grass plowing through. And that was pretty much the idea. Some of it changed, but mostly it stayed the same. And here I'm just drawing where I'm gonna put the birch trees. One's gonna go on that little back of the trench back there. And I actually changed the location of this tree, but it was pretty close to there. And that wall is just gonna have a bunch of rocks on it. And I started to measure out the base of the diorama and cut it out and drew it on with a Sharpie. I drew out the dimensions, and after that I cut it out with my box knife. I cut out the base and I test fit the tank. I think it fits well, and just got in the position that I think I'll like for the finished model. I think it fits nicely. It'll be hanging off over the sides a little bit, but it'll mostly be on. This is one of the smallest dioramas I've ever built, but I mean, it's nice to make a little small one sometimes. And here I'm fitting on where the birch trees are gonna go. And I did change the position of that one tree on the hill. That's not gonna be there on the finished model. You can see I think I'm gonna change it here and put it where it's actually gonna go on the finished one. Next I pulled out some terrain stuff. And with this, I just built the wall and the hill with the trench. Nothing too crazy. This stuff works pretty well, but it doesn't really look too realistic, so I'm gonna have to cover it up with something else in the future. Or at least not as ground. But, I mean, it works for just building up hills and stuff, which is great. After I had the mold done, I put these rocks, pressed them into place on the wall. I got quite a few of these at the forest, and I'm just going to be placing them in places that I think looks good. And trying to get them kind of deep in there, but still visible. After this, I planted the trees permanently in the ground Well, it was still a little soft, but firm enough that it would hold the trees. Next, I got to work cutting up this field grass. I had quite a hard time with this. It's like cutting it up. It took a while. I messed up a lot. I wasted a lot. I watched a YouTube video at the end and figured out how to do it. But it took a long time. But at least now I know how to do it the right way. You can see I'm just trying to cut it here and it's not working. But I did figure it out at some point. Here I have it all cut up. It took a while, but it wasn't too bad. I cut it up to about 1/3 of the original length, and I'm pretty happy with that. And you can see the dried hill and wall. And after this, I got to work painting the, I don't know what you would really call it, but not the rock. I painted the base white. It looks kind of weird against the styrofoam, but it'll look better later once everything else is done. After this, I ordered something on Amazon and it arrived. This is the AK Terrain's Muddy Grounds. I've never used this before, but I think it'll work really well. At first I tried to apply it using my hobby knife, but this did not work. I realized it was going to take way too long. So I got out my paintbrush and this worked much better. It didn't take long to cover the entire ground evenly. This stuff works really well. After this I glued in the tank and I got to work muddying up the tracks and the wheels to make it blend in with the dirt around it. And just to make it look dirty, you can see I'm just kind of sloshing it over the tracks and the wheels and all the stuff on the lower hole. I also did the same thing to the hill and the grassy area over here. It doesn't take too much effort to put this stuff on. It's pretty easy. Just kind of get a paintbrush and brush it all over. It's a pretty good product. I'll definitely be using it again in the future for other dioramas. It doesn't really work well for building up big hills and stuff. It's mostly just to cover up what you already have and make it look like some realistic ground, which I think is really nice. After this, I painted up some German accessories and gear to go in the abandoned trench. I got this little poncho thingy that's tied up. I made 2 German helmets, an MP40 magazine thingy. This silver thing, I don't really know what goes in there, but I know German soldiers would wear it. I got this MG34 that's destroyed, that's going to be kind of buried in the mud, and this bipod for the MG34. I pressed these into place, you can see them back there, and I got to work cleaning up a bit on some areas that I missed with the original coat. And then I got to work on these roughly cut areas. You can see where the styrofoam is visibly styrofoam. I got to work covering those up to make it look like actual ground. I think this turned out really well. I'm pretty happy with it. And yeah, just both of the sides that I cut with the box knife. I didn't know how to really shave them down to look like the other sides. So I just did that, and after that, I took some static grass and applied it over the hill and the grassy area all over. I just sprinkled it on there after I put some glue on there, and I made sure not to get it on like the helmet and the MP40 magazine case, and I made sure not to get it in the trench or anything like that. After that, I got to work placing down all of the tall grass, the field grass. I didn't film much of it. I did most of the first batch off camera, but it was pretty easy. I just took some glue, put it on the ends, and then placed it down there. You can see here, after the first batch, I actually ran out. I didn't have enough to complete it, so I had to wait to get a whole nother bag so I can finish up the rest. And I was just looking around, and I came across these old pieces of wood that I used on my first diorama, and I decided it would be cool to use them to put on the floor of the German trench. You can see I'm just placing them around like that. And then after those were glued in, I tried to make them look like actual wood and not just like little fake wood. And I put a burnt umber wash that I made myself all over all the pieces of wood, just to make them look like they'd actually been down there for a while. After that was dry, I blended in the wood to the ground using some more of the mud. I'm just kind of making it fit in, making it look like it hasn't just been put down there and it's actually been walked on, like it would be in real life. Next, I went back to the hobby store and got some more field grass. This time I actually filmed putting it down. You can see it's a pretty basic process. I just have a plate and I put some glue on there, and I'm just grabbing little bunches of the field grass and sticking the bottoms in there. And I put too much on these two. You don't have to put that much, but then you just stick them into place. It will be a little bit messy at first, like there will be pieces of grass pointing in directions you don't want them in, but you can clean that all up after it's dried. So you can see, just try and make it a thick layer so it doesn't look just like a bunch of different clumps all thrown together, trying to make it look like it's one big field. While I was waiting for that to dry, I got out this wood, and I was just walking around at the hobby store and I saw this wood, and it kind of gave me an idea to, on the sides of the base that are not already covered up with mud, I wanted to put some wood planks on there. I don't know, I thought that would be a cool idea, so I started to cut this up into planks, like kind of like the ones that you see at the bottom of the abandoned trench. So I just cut them up into a bunch of small little planks, and I made a lot, but it wasn't actually enough, so I had to make another batch later. By the time I was finished with that, the grasses had already dried into place. So I trimmed it up, and here's what the finished result looks like. I think it looks pretty nice. After that, I started to put the wooden planks into place. I just put some glue on the back and started to put them into places that kind of fit them. Just put them together without really a pattern. Just kind of tossed them on there to make it look like old, and I don't know. I don't really know the effect I was going for, but I like it. Like I said before, I didn't actually have enough wood to finish off the whole thing, but I just had to cut up a little bit more and it was all finished. And I filled up the gaps with some mud, and after that I made the same burnt umber wash and just put it over all the wood, and that was the final step. I just used the wash to make the wood look pretty old. And after the wash was dry, I was ready to get the final shots in. I have to say this is probably my best diorama so far. I really like it. I like the tank. I like the scene. I feel like the field grass could have been done a little bit better. I'll definitely come back and try that again another time. But I like the effect that I used for the sides of the base, and I like the trench, and I'm overall really happy with this diorama. And I hope you guys are too. I like the birch trees. I really like it.